guys, welcome back to this garage. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in. This is probably gonna be one of the last videos about this car. Basically, I'm working on a really serious issue that this car has. It has the gas gauge that's not working, the RPMs are not working, so the tachometer is not working, and also the speedometer is not working. So unfortunately, I actually tore the car apart already. But if you watched my first videos of this car, you actually saw that the RPMs were stuck at a little over 1,000 RPMs, and the gas gauge was actually reading a little below the full mark. But what's crazy is that the gas gauge, once you shut the car off and take the key out and everything, those gauges stayed at the same spot. So I mean, that right away kind of told me maybe something's wrong with the cluster or whatever. But I hate guessing. I like diagnosing things. So I mean, I don't know how good or bad this video is going to be, but hopefully maybe it's going to be helpful to some of you. But I feel like this video is going to be all over the place, so I apologize in advance, but hopefully this is going to be helpful to some of you. Alright, so excuse the mess, but I had to tear this car apart a little bit. So what we have here is we have a few things. So we have this is the CAN bus, right? So this third right here wire or connector, so from the left, so 1 2 3, this actually goes to the cluster. Okay, all right guys, so here's a quick overview of how this cluster works. So we have 2 power wires going into the cluster, which I'll test later, and then we have ground. Some models they have 2 ground wires, some models have 1 ground wire at the cluster. It just depends. Now, for all your operations, such as RPMs, fuel, and things like that, it is operated by CAN bus. So yeah, these newer cars are crazy. They all have these crazy, which I'm not a fan of, the CAN bus network. That's why this cluster has a tiny connector. It has maybe, I can't remember how many wires, but it doesn't have a lot of wires to it. However, it can make things complicated, if something goes wrong. That's why I'm not a fan of CAN, the cars that have CAN bus network. So the way this thing is you have a CAN connector right here, like a block, and then another block. One of them has brown wires, brown wire and brown red wire. CAN low and CAN high wires, and the other one is, I think, for the chassis CAN. It also goes to the cluster from this CAN block connector right here, and this one has green wires. And then so this is kind of like an overview of this cluster. It doesn't have a lot of wires, but that's how it works. A lot of things such as fuel gauge and other sensors that it's reading off of goes through CAN bus network. This one goes to the cluster, and this cluster wiring, you can see, so it has the same 2 wires, brown and red. Measured the resistance between them. It's good. It's got a continuity, so everything between this terminal and this is good. All right, so on this side we have this other CAN bus block. All right, and I inspected it. All looks good, and also with the key on, I'm getting readings on this, the first one right here, and also the second one too. I'm getting readings of about 0.3 to 0.9 volts, fluctuating. And then the second wire has also about 4.4 to 3 something volts. So yeah, this is, operating as it should. So everything else seems to be good here. I'm gonna wrap everything up here, reinstall this whole thing. Just want to make sure there's no water damage. Everything looks actually amazing here, so that's really good. All right, we're gonna do some voltage testing right now at the communication lines, both the chassis communication lines and the interior communication lines. And yeah, I do not have the oscilloscope right now at the moment, so we're not gonna use that. We're gonna use the old school way. We're gonna kind of use the the voltmeter for that. So hopefully that's going to be helpful for me. So let's get started.
A few moments later.
Okay, so I have the key in the on position, voltmeter connected. So negative is on chassis ground, and with the positive we're gonna go ahead and touch this terminal. Actually, if you touch it anywhere, Okay, now what we are going to be testing is we're going to be testing these two wires. They're CAN wires. They go to the cluster and they come out. We are going to be at this CAN block connector. It has a lot of CAN wires going to it from other modules as well. And then we're going to be testing these two specific wires. The connector number 3 right here, it goes to the cluster. So we will be testing that to make sure it's all good, and we will also compare the other readings from other modules to make sure they're similar or the same. It's gonna give you, should give you some kind of reading, right? Okay, so you can do it with one hand somehow. I need... All right, so I'm on the connector. I know you can't see, but I'm on that connector that goes to the cluster. And this is what it's reading, key on. So it's fluctuating. The voltage, there's some kind of communications you can see is going on. So that's gonna be the low CAN. Okay. And now I'm gonna, so that's gonna be, I believe, the brown and red. Now I'm gonna switch to brown wire. This which should be the CAN high. So let's see what that one reads. All right, so I switched to brown wire, same connector that goes to the cluster, and this is what we're reading. So it's fluctuating. All right, 4.6, 4.4, and all that, right? Whatever. So that's working. And the same thing, the same reading is everywhere on these lines, all right? Now here's the funny, or here's the crazy part. If I disconnect that connector that goes to the cluster, that little tiny connector, I'm gonna lose the communication with the cluster. So I know that this line of this CAN bus line is working properly. So I'm actually not really worried about that line. Everything is good with that, okay? Yeah, and like I said, I tried, testing all the rest of the wires, and they have the exact same reading. Low CAN has like 0.8 to like 0.3 whatever, and then the CAN high has like, fluctuating from 4 point whatever to 4.6 and all that. So this is all working properly, and I don't see any water damage, nothing to this actual part. And yeah, I had to take this cover off, from this guy. All right, so this is the main cluster connector, and as you can see, it's totally different. It's a lot less wires than this that go to this cluster. All right, what's really cool though is you see that it may not seem that it's easy to actually work with this, but you can actually take off this plastic cover. It's pretty easy. I'm just gonna need to use some kind of tool and then just slide out this black connector out of there. That way I can get to all these wires easier. All right, now we're gonna do the same testing on this connector. As you can see, it's so easy. Look, you can see all the wires. All right, so we're gonna do some testing. We're gonna also test these two wires that we were testing at this connector, because they come from this connector right over here. All right, so we're gonna test the same thing. The brown and red. We're gonna be testing the same brown wires that go to this cluster connector right here from the CAN block. CAN high and CAN low. We're gonna make sure that there's power coming to it. All right, so key on. All right, key on and voltmeter. And I'm literally just gonna touch, let's see, the brown wire right now. So it should show the same thing, like 4 point whatever, something. All right. Let's see, just gotta bear with me here, but let's show you this thing. Ooh, why is it so difficult to do? Come on. All right, so I'm touching the brown wire and we're getting the same reading at the cluster. So that's working fine. All right, now I'm gonna switch to the brown and red, which is the CAN low. Boy, why is it so difficult today? There you go. And there's the reading. So we're getting stuff, we're getting communication. So these two wires are good, all right? Now, the cluster is, as you guys know, the cluster was working fine. It was working fine, so the only thing that was not working, the speedometer was not working, the RPM gauge and the gas gauge, but the... Okay, let's go over this wiring diagram really quick. This is a rear SAM that's located in the trunk on the left side of the trunk of this car. on this W203 or C230 I should say. Yeah, forgive me, I had to just I don't know where I lost the other page, but the way this works is rear SAM is your fuse box slash module assembly, and it has it basically communicates, it gets information from the two fuel level sensors, this one and this one, and then also gets that information, then it sends it to that CAN block that we were talking about before. Okay, so it sends it to the CAN block that's got the brown wires. Okay, so that's how it communicates. And I already checked at this rear SAM. I didn't film it, but I checked, you know, and I was getting readings right here at the rear SAM, so we were good on that. Illumination, everything else, all the warning lights were working. That tells me that it has power and ground to the cluster, but still I'm going to show you how to check that. All right, so I have the test light connected to ground right there, and we're going to test to the key still on. I'm going to test for power, right? So the power is going to be on this black and brown wire and this red and yellow. So I'm going to touch my test light here. I want to see the power on these wires. Okay, so we are testing the power. So these two wires coming into the cluster, we're testing for power right there. And also bear with me, working by myself here. Let's try it, see if I'm any good. Okay. Okay, you see that? That's the power wire. This is another power wire. Right there, all right? And now I'm gonna test this ground, but ground is obviously working because the cluster was working, so gotta switch it to power. And then, all right guys, I'm gonna try my best to show you. Okay, now we're testing one of these ground wires. On this cluster, there's only one ground wire on that connector. I have a test light right here, okay, so, and it's literally the key's still on, so I'm just gonna go from ground wire to the power wire with the test light, just to show you that the ground is good on this connector. Let's see. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that, touching the brown wire and then both of those power wires, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, and it's good. 3 wires are good, power and ground. And then we tested these 2 communication lines, they're good, brown and red. Now we have left is what I have left is this other set of CAN wires, green and white. Okay guys, so now we're gonna go to this CAN block and we're gonna worry about these 2 wires. They're CAN wires, they're green in color, and these are, I think they're called the chassis CAN bus wires. So they're really important as well, but you know, I just want to test everything to make sure before I replace any parts. That's the key right here. So let's go ahead and worry about this. This is the CAN block right here. It's located also on the left side of the car, under the carpet, and then it has those 2 wires going to the cluster. So with the key on, okay, multimeter to 20 volts, we're gonna connect, touch that green wire and see what happens. And this is the reading that we get, 2.35. Now when I touch this other wire, okay, let's see, we get 2.66. Sorry, my contact is losing contact here. All right, right here, 2.66. And then again, this other green wire, 2.35. So we're getting a reading, right? But this is what I'm confused about, is I don't know whether that reading is supposed to fluctuate or not. Whether it's supposed to actually fluctuate like the other CAN bus wires that you saw, the 4.2 to 4.6, they were just fluctuating, and then the other wire was like 0.3 to 0.6 that was fluctuating. But this one, these two wires, I mean, they're getting a reading, but they're not like fluctuating. So I don't know, maybe if they're fluctuating like a little bit or whatever, maybe you could see that on the oscilloscope. Yeah, I mean, I know you guys are gonna say, ooh, what a loser, you know, you should get the oscilloscope, you know, and everything. Yeah, I mean, maybe you're right, but guess what? I mean, I'm not a fan of all these new cars. I mean, I still respect this car, but you know, it's sad that how manufacturers went to all this stupid CAN bus system and everything. You know, I do not respect that. I don't like it. You know, why not just have a simple system with, you know, gas fuel level sending unit, and literally those wires just going straight to the cluster, so you can read all that information. You can jump the cluster easily and test your cluster, you know, which is the case on, you know, a lot of old school Benzes and BMWs, whatever. But whenever they went to all this system with CAN wiring and all that bullshit, and it's a pain, you know. So anyways, that's okay though. I mean, I'm gonna get this car fixed up and everything. It's just time consuming, but I just wanted to make this video. Maybe it's going to be helpful to some of you guys, but like I said, you just have to be patient because this car has communication lines, and whenever there's issues or you're having issues with the sensors, it's always something. You have to test that. So anyways, it's you know, I'm getting everything. I'm getting all kinds of signals right here on this connector. Yep. Also, as you can see, I ripped out this portion right here just because I wanted to test more stuff, you know. I wanted to see, but actually, if you were to test, I'll show you. If you were to test these green wires, all right, you're basically getting the same reading. So if you touch, like, let's say that wire, if I can just do that easily. Humans need 3 hands. That's what humans need. All right, one of these wires I'm touching, same reading, 266, and the other wire would show a 235. Right, so all of them are the same, have the same reading. Same thing with this guy, right? They have the same reading, 4.6 to 4.0 whatever fluctuation, and the other wire has the same thing, 4 point or 3 point, no, sorry, 0.2 to 0.8 whatever. So all of the wires are reading the same all the way across. So you know, that tells me that, I mean, I don't know, it's got to be the cluster. I mean, I don't see anything else wrong with it, you know, other than the cluster. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and start the car because I don't have a battery maintainer, so I don't want the battery to go dead on me. All right. And don't pay attention to some of the spaghetti here. That was a previous owner, and I'm gonna disconnect that line, the wire right there. But yeah, let's go ahead and connect this guy. All right, guys, the car is running, and I have the stuff connected, the scan tool connected to it. And what I want to see is I want to see if the sensors are actually working. So the gas gauge RPM signal of the sensors are actually okay. So I want to see the live data. So there's an option right here. It actually reads, you know, 1/2 and the other half of the tank. And as you can see, it's reading. All right, so, and it's around half of it. One of it is half of a tank, and the other is like 14 more percent, 15 more percent. So I would say just a little bit over half or some kind of like that, something like that. So, but there was another data pit that actually saw that said it had about 9-something gallons of fuel in it. So I know that the fuel level sensor is actually working fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So let's check the RPM signal. All right, we're gonna go to engine control module right here, and now look at that, RPMs. So we got RPMs going. So the sensors are good. That means the sensors are working properly. this is the original cluster to this car. I took it apart, as you can see, and you know, I tried looking everywhere at all kinds of things, and I'm not really seeing any broken traces anywhere. I'm not seeing anything like damaged or whatever. So yeah, I've been just scratching my head, like trying to figure out what's going on, you know, why this thing is not showing the RPMs, it's not showing the gas gauge or any of that. It's strange because over here it looks really normal everywhere. I mean, maybe one of the microchips is bad, like it's literally, like I was really confused, you know, I was doing all kinds of things and, you know, figuring things out. All right, guys, it's been about a week. I got a good used cluster that I purchased, and we're gonna go ahead and try to install this guy right now. Okay, we're gonna see if everything is back to life. All right, guys, so I cut the label on it already and connected the cluster. Let's see what happens. That's crazy. Look at that. It's already reading a different reading, all right? And when I turn the key off, it goes back. All these pixels are working. That's nice. Let's try to start it. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? I have to reset the SRS light. I was messing with some of that. But, dang, that is crazy, guys. I had the cluster disconnected, that's why the SRS light is on. But, oh man, finally, all these issues are fixed. The only problem is that it's not gonna be showing the mileage because when you change that to a different cluster on these cars models, you have to actually, there's a procedure for that. Maybe you guys know, let me know how I can easily do that. But as of right now, I mean, I won't be able to do that, unfortunately, so it's gonna have no mileage reading as of right now. But we still have the old cluster, so we can, you know, do something with that, I guess. Speedo is working, everything. Woohoo! Suspension nice and tight, no noises. I like that. Look at this finished car. All fixed up. What a machine. You ready to drive, big guy? All right. Yeah, adjust your seat. You might have to. Yeah. I don't know. Just a little bit. Very cool, isn't it, huh?
Really nice, yeah.
Let's see how you remember driving this car.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. We can go to left, make a left.
Okay. Yeah, really smooth. That's nice. I don't think I've been to this part.
Yeah, this is a nice place actually. It's like a park